So we're going to continue talking about import session data stuff, and we're going to talk about effects chains and kind of like what I just showed you, being able to import effects from another session. And there's kind of two ways to do this in Pro Tools now. It used to be that there was only one way to do this, but now Pro Tools is kind of added in, it's kind of caught up with the rest of the world in terms of effects chains. So in Logic, you do have your channel strip settings, so you can load up channel strips. So for example, let's say that I have a singer who's coming over and working with me a lot, and in Logic, I have everything set up, and I like the effects I'm using, I like the plugins, and I can just say that as a channel strip setting. In Ableton Live, it's got effects racks and instrument racks. So if I have like a bass sound, and that bass sound I want to put like a compression on it and some little bit of distortion or something, I can say that as an instrument rack. And they both allow you to save multiple effects and instruments as one setting for later recall. They're essentially presets for groups of plugins. If you are using an older version of Pro Tools, and a lot of studios will have older versions of Pro Tools, then you may not have access to this because older versions of Pro Tools do not have effects chains. But the modern versions of Pro Tools do have it. And I'm going to show you both ways to get around this because you probably will end up working in a studio that does have older versions of Pro Tools. There are a lot of them around, and so I just want to make sure that you understand how you can work with both versions. So let's say, for example, that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of these vocals down here. And okay, so I've got this lead sound here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off the effects in Massive X. If I can remember how to do this. Routing, voice, noise cut off over here. Is it this one? Let's see, I can hear the delay, but I do not want to. Let's do this one. Not that, hold on, maybe you. There we go. Cool, so I have this. So I have this sound here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some effects on it like after the synth. AJ says, why would a studio have an older version of Pro Tools? Because of your hardware. Not all hardware is all compatible with each other. If they have an older computer and they don't want to spend another $5,000 getting updated hardware just because Pro Tools doesn't work with it, they're just going to keep their older version of Pro Tools. Remember, Pro Tools for a lot of studios is literally just an electronic tape machine, just so you can record multiple tracks. A lot of studios aren't doing all the flashiest things, all the newest things with Pro Tools. So a lot of studios will have older versions of Pro Tools because they just don't want to keep updating it every time a new computer comes out or a new operating system. So I have a friend, he's got a studio in Wales, and or at least it used to be the case, where he had two versions of Pro Tools running. He had two computers. He had a modern computer and he had an older computer because he didn't want to have to buy all the new Pro Tools hardware again. If you have an older system, like an old TDM system, those things are like $10,000, $15,000, and they work. They just don't work with the new computers. So what he did was he had an old computer that ran that system, and he keeps it running, but he doesn't keep it in the modern OS. And then he has a new computer that has the newer versions of Pro Tools on it. So he actually is running both versions of Pro Tools because a modern version of Pro Tools really is only like $600. It's not that expensive. But if you're running all the old hardware, that was like $15,000. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And especially he's not making tons of money off of his studio as a studio. He's more of a producer, and he just needs something to record all his synthesizers and stuff. So he's not running the newest. He's not only running the newest versions of Pro Tools, he's running the old one and the new one. So it really helps to know how old versions of Pro Tools actually worked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Massive here, and I'm going to run some effects on it. I'm going to run it through some effects as insert effects. Now this is a case when what I'm about to do now is not exactly something that I would do in normal life. I'm just going to be showing you this stuff. So let's go ahead and use Sound Toys. I'm going to dirty the sound up a little bit. Let's use Decapitator here, and let's go. So I got that there. Let's put a little EQ on it as well. We're going to use, let's use FabFilter Pro Q3. And this is just so I can show you how all these things work. So we're going to, I'm going to take out the middle section here. Going to move that like that. Let's go ahead and widen that out a little bit. Yeah, that sounds different. And then let's use a chorus on it. Yeah, use the Taurus. All right, that sounds pretty good. And next, finally, put a little kind of reverby delay thing on it. Let's use a UAD plugin for this. Let's use the, let me just make sure how are we doing with this here? Oh yeah, got plenty of space to use. So we'll use the lexicon in here. All right, so we got that there. And let's see what these sound like. All right, cool. So a little bit on noisy side, and turn off. Okay, so there's completely dry. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple things here. One, I've got all these effects on here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this as a channel strip in Pro Tools. And the way that we do this is we right-click on it. You can right-click on the name over here, down here, and we're going to go to Save Track Preset. Down here, Save Track Preset. So what I did was I just right-click on the name of the track and go to Save Track Preset. And we're going to give this a name. We're going to call this one Sharp Lead, like that. And I'm going to give it a, Massive X. Maybe let's put this one actually first, so I know what synth it comes from. Boom, Massive X Sharp Lead. We do not need to include the audio and MIDI clips category. It's not Avid. Let's call this a Tony preset here. And all the stuff in here is fine. I'm just going to leave that in there. It's just there you go, some auto-populate the tags. Now we're going to put here with the track data that we want to recall whenever I recall it in. We don't need to recall all of this data here. Again, we really just need to include the plugin assignments and the plugin settings and automation if there are any. So this one here is just everything, and then this one here, number 2, is just a couple things, and I set that up myself. So that's pretty good. That looks good. I don't think we need to bring anything else out. Yeah, that reverb. Yeah, it's a great reverb. It's also, you can see how much that reverb is using on my DSP chips here. I have a quad 2. I've got 2 chips in here, and it's using pretty much all of one of them. It's a very, very heavy reverb, but it's great. All right, so we got this here. This is all good stuff. We don't need to click on any of this stuff over here. So I'm just going to hit OK. And now hit OK again, and it's just going to save that settings, save those settings. So I'm going to hit, let's go ahead and do a save as here. Let's go Sharp Hand Joe. Session import. Cool. All right, so we have that there, session import. I'm going to make a new session now. I'm going to close the session out. I'm going to make a new one. And We're not going to create from a template. We're just going to call this one. All right, cool. Sounds good. Who is that? Who's going underground? I have no idea who that is. All right, so in here, let's just give this one a name. Session, import, setup, whatever. And it doesn't matter what settings I use or anything like that. Right now, I'm just gonna use this here, boom. And now, if I want to import that synth with everything, I've got a couple ways I can do it. First, I could make a instrument track, stereo instrument track. And what I do is I right-click. I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna right-click and go to Recall Track Preset, Tony Presets, Massive X Sharp Lead. And now it'll pull up everything I was just using. Oh, what's up, Fred? All right, cool, thanks. Everything I was just using. And there we go. Oh, the other one was super loud because it had it had an effect on the master. So there we go. Now we got that sound. Sounds pretty good. It's a bit quiet right now. I'm gonna pull it up. Cool. So that sounds pretty good there, and it's got all the same settings that we had in here. Pro Q3. See all these settings that we had. So, cool. So it's basically the same sound. It sounds a little bit different because it's running through some different plugins afterwards. But you've got that. Now that's one way to do this. Another way to do this, though, is if I have it set up, and this is like kind of more like I was saying before, the old school editor, the old school way to do it, is what I can do is I can go in here and I can go to import session data, Option Shift I, and I can go find where I'd put that session data. I can import the session data. Hold on one second. I'll do it again in just a second. So I'll go over to where I had that session data, and I think I had that session data in, let's see, Pro Tools, Recording, Pro Tools Projects. Where did I put it? It was in my, oh, Sharp Hand Joe, down here. Okay, there we go. Sharp Hand Joe, session import. And in here, down here, I've got lead one. So I can just click on this once, see this, and it says new track. And I tell it what I want to import. Don't import the playlist. Make sure that I'm importing just the plugins. Great, we're good to go there. And it's going to be a new track there, so hit OK. And now just imported everything. Right there. It didn't import the output. Oh, that's interesting. So it came up grayed out. I'm not sure why it did that, but check this out. See how it came up kind of grayed out like this? Well, that's because this output was not set to anything. So I'm going to set it to my output 1 and 2. And there we go. Okay. So if I want to import my track preset here, remember what I did? I just made a stereo instrument track, blank instrument track, and I just right-click on the name of the track and go down here to Recall Track Preset. And I'm just going to find the one I just made, Massive X Sharp Lead, and it pulls it up, and now it does this. And oh wow, okay, I've got 2 instances of the lexicon in here, and it's barely. It'll let me play them, but I can't have any more of this lexicon in here. You can see my up here. It's like my program usage is at 96%. That's crazy. It's just 2 plugins. So that's how we would do that. I hope that kind of answers your question there, Johnny. Let me know if you have any more questions. We can definitely discuss it. If you're still having issues with it, I can help you out in Zoom, or I can like talk you through it or whatever, or we can talk about it a little bit more. So that's that there. So Pro Tools, it says in the notes that Pro Tools does not have this feature, but you can accomplish it with import session data. Actually, Pro Tools, the modern versions of Pro Tools do have this feature now, but you can still do it with import session data, or you can do it like I showed you before. So if you're working with the same vocalist repeatedly, this is another good example for this, and you want to be able to recall their settings. What I recommend is create a new session and give it vocal presets. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and delete this track here. And if I go in here and I make a mono audio track, let's recall the session settings here. I'm going to right click on the name of the track, go down to recall track preset, Tony presets, vocal crunch. I'm down here in the bottom of my screen. And let me just show you. Audio, right click, recall track presets, vocal crunch. And now this has these plugins on it. So that's what I can do. And I could give this a name. Tony vocal crunch, like that. And let's make another track here. Oops. Let's make another couple of audio tracks here, and these are all going to be vocals. Let's call this one Tony vocal clean, and this one here will be Tony vocal heavy compression, and this in here would be Tony vocal like a reverb. I don't know. Not a reverb. Let's say Tony vocal here filter. So I have all these here, and what I can do is I can start with this one. This one, what is going on with this one here? It says crunch, but it's not actually, there's no crunch in it. So let me, oh, maybe the right plugin wasn't in here. Let's go ahead and drag a different plugin in here to make it actually crunchy. Harmonic. This fuzz wah is a good one for crunchy sounds. And if I use my external microphone here, ouch. Use my external microphone here. Check 1 2, check check, checkity check check check. Hey, check check. Nope, not you. Check 1 2, check. Hey 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 hey. Hey, check 1. Hey. Okay, so we got that. Check. Hey. All right, so there we go. I've got that there. We can turn on my fuzz sound. Let's do this. La 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 la. Cool. Got that right there. Nice. Hey. Yeah. Okay. So that sounds like a nice little kind of bullhorn type of an effect. Check 1 2, check. Okay, so I've got that there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in these other ones. I'm going to pull this one here. It's just a low cut here. I'm going to move these up here. And this is just a compression. I'm going to pull that in. And this one that says clean, let's use a different compressor for this. I'm going to use a plugin that I've got here. Let's use a something from let's see, what do I got? Oh, let's use a Slate one. And we'll use the virtual mix rack, and I'll just use one of their presets from in here, and this has a few different plugins and stuff in it. This is like a box of effects. That's what the Slate rack is. It's like a box of effects. And I want to show my system usage so we can just see like what's going on here with stuff. All right. So in here, classic strip. Let's go into vocals down here, and we'll use vocals. Let's use warm vocals here. So I got that, and let's pull in everything from the same place here. Check 1 2. Hey, there we go. So that's the sound of these vocals. And if I want to listen to these over here, it sounds like this. Cool. And let's go to the, what was this one? Heavy compression. So I'm going to pull in this one here. And let's pull in this compressor. And let's put another compressor on here. Dynamics. Let's put a hardcore. Let's put the bus compressor on here. We'll just like crank that so it's super compressed. Check 1 2, check checkity check 1 2 check. Hey, there we go. It's gonna be compressing a lot. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's a little bit. Gonna maybe check 1 2 check. Super over compressed. I'm gonna turn that up so you can just hear how compressed that is. What is up? Super over compression in effect right now, y'all. What? All right. And you get that nice little delay, right? Because you're hearing it from both my microphones. So we got that, and then we're gonna put a filter on this one over here. I'm just gonna grab this one here. We're gonna grab this VMR one as well, which is gonna have all those effects in it. But then we're gonna put a filter on the end, and we're gonna use a UAD filter. Let's use the UAD Moog filter, which is one of my favorites. Down here, Moog. And we'll just use the SC one here because that's like a easy one to use. Check 1 2. Oops, here, let's go. Grab this, and we've got this filter here. Use the band pass. Yeah, what is up, y'all? Yeah. What? Turn up that resonance. Yeah. There we go. Okay, cool. Maybe too much on the resonance there. Put that in a 2-pole. So now you can hear me. I'm adjusting things. And let's say I want to use this like a special effect type of thing. So what I can do is now I've got all these, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a save as. Let's not save this as session import setup. We're going to save this as its own setup. And we're going to call this one session import setup. We'll call this one. Actually, let's do this. Let's do a save copy in instead of a save as. Save copy in. It's going to set its own folder and everything like this. Interleave, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to copy over any audio files. There are no audio files. I'm going to hit OK. And we're going to go over this in detail here in just a second. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go into where we just were. No, not there. Down here. Pro Tools projects, there we go. And we're going to call this one vocal templates. Vocal templates. So it's just got a few different vocal templates in here for me. And now I've got all these set up here. So now I can actually drag these into other sessions really quickly. But what I'm going to do before I do that is I'm going to go ahead and save these as Pro Tools templates as well as track templates. So I'm just going to right click on it, save track preset, Tony Vocal Crunch. It'll probably ask me if I want to override the one it should be another name. We're going to call this one Vocal Crunch 2. The crunching. So I right click on that. I did that. I'm going to right click on this one here, save track preset, Tony Vocal Clean. Just make sure we're in the. Yep, I have to click on this every time, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. Boom. Right click on this one here. You're usually not saving this many at the same time, so it's not really going to come up so much as being as annoying as it is right now. And then same with this one here. Right click, save track preset. All right. Hit OK. Boom. So now, if I had a session, I have two ways that I can recall these in. I can do the one way where I make a audio track, mono, and I can right click and I can recall the track preset down here on the bottom of my screen. I hope y'all can see this down here. Boom, boom, boom. And whichever one I want to bring up, it'll bring it up, and there it goes. Or I can actually import my session data, which is Option-Shift-I. Import session data. And let's go find that session data. You got to make sure you know where that session data is. Under Vocal Templates. It's a little bit dirty in there. I'm going to have to clean that up. So now in here, under Vocal Templates, I've got all these vocal templates that I just had, that I just made. So I'm going to go over here and put the heavy comp in here. And I can bring it into a new track, and I'll just make a new track. And this is what you would do if you're going to be doing this before you actually record anything. Hit OK. And there we go. Now it brings up a new track. The only thing is I have to make sure I set up my output to go to my main output, and we're good to go. So that's how to get your session, how to get different session data in different ways. If I want to recall different track presets and stuff, I've got those two ways of doing it. I've got one way that is my the new way, which is you just right-click on the track and go to recall track preset, or the old way, which is import session data. So I hope that helped out with some stuff. Okay. All right. Okay, let's just talk a little bit about cleaning up our session audio here real quick. This is something you want to do at the end of everything before you turn it in, before you save it for, forever and ever. When you're done with your session, when you're done with everything and you're ready to go, this is something that you would do for that. Just quit that real quick. Okay, and this is basically just making sure that you don't have any extra audio files just hanging out doing nothing. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to open up a session that has a bit of recordings in it. Let's go here to the Sharp Hand Joe mix. Now this session here, as we can see, there's quite a lot of stuff in here. And if I went ahead and cleaned this all up, and I want to make it so this audio here is the new audio. It's not elastic audio, it's actually rendered in. What I could do is I'm going to go over here, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hold down Option Shift 3 for consolidating it. That's also under here, under Edit. If I go up to the top of my screen, Edit, Consolidate Clip, Option Shift 3, right there. Consolidate Clip, Option Shift 3. That's what I'm doing. And what this is what's going to happen here is it's going to make new audio clips from the audio that's here. Now it's going to take a second to do this. That's okay. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's going to take too long. What's going on, Pro Tools? You not happy about this? That's taking a lot longer than I expected. Here, let's do one at a time. Let's see what happens. Wow. There we go. Okay, that's not too bad. Now you can see that when I did that, what it did over here on the right-hand side, look at my clips list. It made a new audio file here called Kick EA, Elastic Audio 0101. So I'm going to do the same thing for all these. And you see what it's doing is it's putting everything together as a new audio file. It's just kind of like compressing everything together into a new audio file here. So I'm just going to go through and do this for all the tracks. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to show you some stuff in here that I need some fresh audio here to be able to show you this. So all my tracks that I have here, now I've condensed them into one new audio file here. And if I click on this, you can see where each one is. And you got to find it over here on the right, but you can see it over here on the right-hand side. There it is right there. And I click on this, and it's down here at the bottom. And you can see it's just highlighted there. Now, when you're done with a new session and you're cleaning it up and you're ready to basically you want to condense everything down so it's not so much audio data. And in this case, if I go over here and I click on my snare 1 here, let me just get all my drums fall in the same place. Hold on. I've got my drum group on. I change one, it changes them all. So all of these are the original audio, and you can see it's all these clips over here. There's a whole bunch of extra audio clips over here on the right-hand side. This is kind of annoying, and it's taking up space on my computer, especially with these older files. So I just want to get rid of all these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change everything to my Elastic Audio. It's basically my timing corrected tracks. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to click on one of them on my playlist selector. And I'm going to go to delete unused. And we did talk about this the other day. And I want to go through basically and just delete all my unused playlists. So I'm going to select the ones I want to delete. I can hold down Shift and click them and hit delete. And now see how these playlists are no longer blue anymore. And if I look in here, there's no delete unused. It's only showing me now it's just the playlists that I'm looking at. So all those extra playlists that I was not looking at before that I'm not going to use are all gone. But you can see that actually the clips are still in my clips list. So I want to get rid of these clips from my clips list. So what I'm going to do is I've got two ways to do this. I can use the shortcut, or I can do it here from the drop-down menu. I'm going to show you both ways. I can click on the drop-down menu for my clips list here, and I'm going to select unused. So now I just went through and it selected all my unused clips that I'm not using anymore. And I'm going to deselect this one here. Select unused ignores parent clip. So I'm going to make sure that it is going to select my parent clip here. Also, I'm going to get rid of these two tracks over here that are not being used. If we look over here on the left, I just realized these two tracks here that were in my original recording that I'm no longer using are still here in my session. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these. I right-click on them and I delete them. And the reason I'm deleting them is so that they're no longer in my session at all. It says, hey, you've got some active clips. I'm just going to hit enter to get rid of them. And now I'm going to go back over here to my clips list, and I'm going to select unused. Now it'll select all my original files as well. But that's okay. What I do want to do though is, for some reason, it's not. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing. This is like a newer thing in Pro Tools. It's not selecting my parent clip here, which is kind of annoying. Let's just see what happens if I drag that in. Yeah, it's weird. It automatically changes it into a non-whole audio clip, which is. Oh, I think I know why. You know what? I bet it's because it's on an Elastic Audio track. Let me just change these all to non-Elastic Audio tracks. There we go. Okay, cool. So yeah, it was because it was on an Elastic Audio track, and that's why it kept changing it away from its whole audio file. So now, basically what I want to do is I just want to make sure that all of these are highlighted here, the ones that are the full audio file. And that's my original audio file on my hard drive. Now I'm going to go select. I'm going to select unused. So my original audio file should not be selected. So you can see everything is selected here except for what I'm actually using in my session. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and right click again. I'm going to click again on this drop down menu and go to clear, which is Command Shift B. The shortcut for unused files is Command Shift U, and then now we've got clear here, Command Shift B. Once I start to clear them, it's going to give me a warning. Because what I want to do is I want to remove them out of my session, but I have options for this. I can remove the selected clips from the session, which means they're still in my hard drive. All the whole audio files are still in my hard drive. I can move it to the trash for selected source files if possible, which means that my source files are going to go into the trash can on my computer, or I can just delete them permanently from disk. I can delete the selected source files permanently from disk, which means it's actually going to delete everything immediately. So these are pretty destructive. Remove is just still going to stay in my audio. It's still going to be on my folder. It's not destructive at all. Move to trash will move them to the trash can, which is mildly destructive, but I could still go into my trash down here. I can still go to my trash. Oh wait, it's over here on the side. go to my trash can and I could see what's in my trash folder, which in this case is nothing because I always empty my trash out. Or I can delete immediately. And if you click delete immediately, it's just going to delete them immediately. And so I don't want to do that. I want to keep them in my folder because other files are using them. But what I just want to point out here is if you are cleaning up your folder, which I recommend that you do, and if I'm cleaning up my folder, you probably want to use remove because that's the less destructive. But you might want to use move to trash, and you might want to use delete. Just make sure you're using the right one and that you understand what they all do. So I'm going to hit remove right now because I want to keep them. It's going to say, it's still used in a track? Are you sure? And I'm going to hit yes. So now what we're left with, once I hit enter, is all these clips are just what's used in my session here. Just all the ones that are used in my session are here in my clips list. And so this is great. So this means that we're not using extra stuff. It's fantastic. I'm very happy with this. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that where we are in the notes here is cleaning up session data. We just did this part here. We're not going to talk about compacting right now. We're going to come back and talk about that another time. But what I just did was I just cleaned it up. So now all the clips are just the ones that I'm actually using in my session. And now I want to use save copy in to save this for a later date. Now what I just did, what I'm about to do is it's actually going to clean up space on my hard drive, which is what I want to do before I back it up. So I'm going to go to save copy in under file, down here, save copy in. We've talked about this a bunch of times. We've actually talked about this directly before. I'm just talking about it again because it's very important. And now in here it brings up this dialog menu. So we have some options. Which format do we want it to be? Well, we want it to be the latest format. If you are going to an older version of Pro Tools, if you know you're going to a studio that has an older version of Pro Tools, you can save it as an older version of Pro Tools 7 through 9. Starting from version 10 of Pro Tools, everything basically was the same. So there's still some features that you're going to be missing with the latest version versus a version 10, but you can still open them up in each other. So if I save my Pro Tools, if I save it as this modern, I've got the most up-to-date version of Pro Tools right now. If I save it, and I know I'm going to somebody's house or a studio where they only have version 10, I don't have to save anything different. It's just certain things aren't going to be active in version 10, or it's not going to let me do it in version 10, what I could do now in version 2020, but I can still open up the session. But if I'm going to an older version, like version 8, and I do know some people who have like version 8 with an old computer, I need to make sure I save it as a different Pro Tools session because it's not going to open properly. So I could click on that and save that version 7 through 9, and a whole bunch of stuff no longer is available to me. But I'm going to go ahead and save latest. And now, under here, what's my file type? It's WAV, sample rate 44.1, bit depth 24. These things we can't click on them, but if I went to an older version here, I could start to click on stuff. Oh, it's not letting me click on that. I wonder why. Oh, maybe just because of my current session. And interleaved, yes. Limit the character set. That's just if you're going to like a Windows machine or something. Don't worry about that right now. Items to copy. Now this is really important. You want to make sure that you copy your audio files. The audio files can get copied in, and what that means is it's going to pull everything from my different folders and my different hard drives and my different places on my computer and bring it into my audio files folder internally. This is the most important part right here because this means that all my audio files are going to be copied in, so when somebody else opens it up, they can open this up no problem and they're going to be fine. So audio files here, main playlist only. You could do that. That's actually a good idea, and that kind of saves some of the steps we did earlier, but I'll leave that up to you if you want to do that or not. Over here, I don't really ever save any of these. If you know why you're saving it, then save it. Don't copy rendered elastic audio files. That's just going to save some space there, and then convert to a specified format. If you want to convert it to a specified format, you can, but really you don't need to do that. So after I've selected these things, and it's not that much, I just want to show you here, it's not really much that you have to select. just make sure these things are selected here, and you hit OK. Now it's going to ask you, where do you want to put it? Well, let's put this on my desktop. Yeah, let's just stick it on my desktop here. So Sharpan Joe, mix, and we can call this one final. Whatever, so I know it's done. Hit save, and you can see for a second it brought up a little window there that showed it copying stuff over. There's not much for it to copy, so it doesn't have to take that long to copy. But if I go over here to my desktop, over here, here's my folder, my file, and there it is. And it's got all my audio files in it. There they are. And that's where everything has ended up living. Okay. So basically what this save copy in does is it allows you to save your session as an older format for non-modern studios and make sure that all of your audio files are in the session folder. Always use save copy in when you are finished with a session and are ready to archive it, or when you want to send the session to someone else to work on it with you in another studio. Also, when you are sending it to me for me to grade it, I need to see those audio files. If you do not save the audio files, I'm going to take like 10 points off. That's a whole letter grade I'm going to take off for it, because this is super, super important. When do you not need to use save copy in? You do not need to use save copy in when you're just saving it on your own computer. I've had students that got really confused about this, and they were using save copy in every single time. And every time that they were saving it, then it was just copying that data and copying that data and copying that data and copying that data. And it just got super annoying because they were running out of hard drive space, because every single session they were saving it, save copy in, save copy in, save copy in. So if you have a session that's like a gigabyte, that's going to, every time you save it, it's going to be another gigabyte, another gigabyte, another gigabyte, another gigabyte. And really all you need to save is something that's like a couple of megabytes. So don't use save copy in every single time. Just use save copy in sometimes. All right. And to answer your question, absolutely, it is Pro Tools Lessons. I think it says it in the Twitch name. It says this week we're working on Pro Tools. So that's what we're doing. All right. So finally, the last thing we're going to talk about today is the keyboard focus mode. This doesn't take a whole lot of time. Really, it's more about you trying things out and stuff like that. But keyboard focus mode, what this does is it allows you to use just regular like shortcuts with just one key shortcuts. And so basically, the way I teach Pro Tools is I like to use the command keys for stuff. So for example, zooming stuff, whoops, not you. Let's go to Pro Tools here. So if I want to zoom, I use command brackets like this. And if I want to cut something, I use command E for separate. If I wanted to consolidate that, I would option shift 3, or if I want to heal it back together, I can just use command H. But I use command shortcuts for stuff. But there's another way to do shortcuts in Pro Tools, and that's your keyboard focus mode. What that does is it means that you don't have to hold down command key, and it essentially lets you work faster in Pro Tools if you get used to it, or it lets you use different ways to do different things in Pro Tools. So let's just check this out. I'm going to go actually to a different session to do this. Let's go in here to, let's close this one out. Don't save. I do not need to save that stuff. I'm going to open up a session here, and let's go to Pro Tools Editing Projects, and let's use Rubadoo. Yep, the latest one, the mix. Okay, so the reason why I'm using this one is because there's a lot going on with this one. And I just want to show you what all you can use this for. So I'm going to open up my clips list over here on the right. And so I've got 3 different windows open here. I've got down here in the bottom left corner, I've got my groups. So see how that's my groups right over here. And here's my keyboard focus button right here. See that A to Z? It says A to Z right there. That's my keyboard focus button for my groups. And if I go across my screen to the right and I go up, my edit window, which is in the middle, this edit window right here, this has my A to Z button right there, which is a keyboard focus mode for the edit window. And if I go up here, I've got a keyboard focus mode for my clips list as well. Each one of these has its own separate sets of shortcuts to do different things. But you have to make sure it's turned on for that window. So if it's orange, it's on, or yellow, whatever color that is. Okay. So in the notes here, it shows you where those three places are: keyboard focus mode, 3 places, edit window, groups window, clips window. It can only be turned on in one place at a time, and it enables one key shortcuts for that window. So here it just shows you where different things are, and this is in the notes. Hold on, just trying to make this, there we go, cool. So the way I use it is the first one here, which is in the groups window. This is the way I recommend using it. This is the way I've seen most of my friends using it, and it works really well because you already have shortcuts, the command shortcuts for this main edit window here. What the groups window does when you use the keyboard shortcuts for this one is that, remember how we've been setting up all these new groups with IDs that have the same letter as the first name of the group, or the first letter of the group? Well, that's so that we can use the keyboard shortcuts here. So if I want to activate my vocal group, I can hit the V key. If I want to activate my electric guitar, I can activate the E key. My acoustic guitar is the A key. My bass is the B key, and my D is for drums. And you see how this turns this on here. And on, off. I can also click on it with my mouse. But I can use a shortcut for that as well. And this is why I like to do this. So for example, if I want to edit all my drums at the same time, all my drums are up here across the top. If I wanted to edit all of these, I can just make sure that here, let me just turn them all off real quick. My drums is D, so I just hit D, and it lets me edit all my drums, or I can just edit one drum like that. Okay. I can also adjust my volume levels for all my drums. If I have my, and let me just get my groups over here on the left. So if I hit D, see it turns the group on, so I can edit all my drums like that, or I can just turn them off real quick to edit one drum at a time. So that's why I like to use it in groups focus mode over on the left-hand side, because I find it very useful. But I do have a bunch of shortcuts in here for you if you decide to use it in the edit window. So if you want to use the shortcuts for the edit window, I recommend that you buy a keyboard cover for your keyboard that has all the shortcuts on there, and that way you can learn them really quickly. But we've got here a couple of really important ones for you: copy, paste, cut, undo, trim, start, trim, end, fade in, fade out, crossfade, separate, clip, zoom in, zoom out. So for example, the A key is trim start, the S key is trim in. So if I put my keyboard shortcut mode up here, see this, it's right here in the kind of upper right hand corner, click on that, and I want to trim my clap over here like this. If I have my trim tool set up here, I can just click on this and I can trim like this, I think. Oh yeah, I hit that. How do I do this? Do I not have it set up? I actually never use this, and so I can't, maybe I can't use my smart tool for this. You can fade in, just hit F to fade, and it fades it. You can also zoom in, R and T, like that, R and T like that, or some of the other shortcuts. Separate clip is B. Just put it where you want to separate it and hit B. But I find, for me personally, it's not that much extra. Just hit Command F, for example, for the fade. So hit that, boom. And actually what I use it is I just drag over my fade like that. If you have the smart tool set up, I don't even use a shortcut for my fade. What I would do is I just hit like that, just drag it over like that. So you've got that there, and you can, once you've got it set up here, I can drag it and put a curve on it like that. So I just use, like I said, I use my keyboard shortcuts focus mode for my groups here, and I use my regular command key shortcuts for my edit window. It's up to you how you want to use it. There's no really right way or wrong way. I will say that if you do learn how to use your edit window keyboard focus mode, it's really, really fast, but you can also be fast with using your command keys as well. You just have to be a little bit more ambidextrous by using like your pinky and your thumb, and you've got, if you notice, you've got a command key on either side of your space bar. So you kind of have to know where things are on your keyboard, but once you've been doing this for years, you should be able to get it pretty good. All right. Cool. And I think that brings us to the end of everything for today. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.